Hi, this is Mrs. O'Toole, and welcome to the Young Authors Elective. If you love writing, you will love this elective, and you will be able to create your own narrative story from start to finish and actually create an online book afterwards. But before we can really start, what we need to do is go to Google Classroom. If you're not familiar on how to do that, you're going to type in Google Classroom in the upper part. You're going to click on the plus sign, and then you're going to add the following code, which would be UTCLREV. Now, once you do that, you will have access to the Google Classroom. And in addition to that, I will be posting any assignments or activities that you need to do prior to moving on to the next stage of creating your story. We'll be working in stages. Your first stage will be brainstorming on what makes a great lesson. So I want you to start thinking about what lesson or message do you want to send to your audience. The second one is stage 2. You're going to create and use your story map to create story, to keep it on track. If you don't create a story map, what happens is that you tend to go off, and then it's very difficult to come back and try to capture your audience again. In stage 3, we're going to review and we're going to follow the 5 writing stages of the writing process, which is pre-writing, drafting, editing, revising, and then finally publishing. Stage 4, what we're going to do is that we're going to create and actually publish your narrative in book form that you can share with your family and your friends. We will be using the Book Creator application or website to create and publish your book online. But what I want you to do is I want you to go to this URL when you are ready, and I want you to familiarize yourself with the features before publishing your book. So you might want to go up there, play around with some of the features, functionalities, maybe even put a little book together very quickly. And then from there, you'll be able to, by the time you get to that point, create your book, you'll already have knowledge of how to use the website. But before we start, most important, we have to brainstorm. Again, what type of story do you want to write? Some of the suggestions I want to give you is take a look at your favorite stories that could possibly guide you. Ask yourself, why did you like the story? And the notes on how the author developed characters and the situations that they were in that kept you engaged. So if you had a particular book that you tend to read over and over and over again, this would be a good example or a good model for you to follow. But most important, make sure that you understand how that author developed the characters. Next step we're going to do is go on to is creating a story map, which is very important. That's, again, to keep you very focused in creating your story. Then you can start writing your story by following your story map. You're going to also follow and use the 5 stages of writing to guide you to make sure that everything that you wanted to talk about in your story is complete. And lastly, you're going to publish it. And then after that, you can share it with your friends, your family, and congratulations, you are now an author. What I want to share with you is a few things of a purpose of a narrative story. And if you think about it, a narrative is simple. It's to tell the audience a story, your message. What do you want to communicate with your reader? You want to make a connection with them. You want them to maybe think about something. So it could be written to motivate them. Maybe you experience something that you want to share with others and you want to motivate them. Or you can educate them on something or entertain. Remember, narratives can be fiction, which is not real, or it could be nonfiction, which is real. The challenges in writing a narrative is to capture the audience and keep them engaged throughout the entire story. So what does make a great story? Well, let's start. It needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. In addition to that, there has to be a problem and resolution that has a significant element called conflict that drives that plot story forward. Things have to be happening. There is no conflict, there is no story to be told. You also have to make sure that you have character settings, tone, and plot. So make your characters believable. Your setting affects how your characters are going to act. The tone. How are you going to convey your story? And the plot, again, is your beginning, middle, end with your exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and then finally your resolution. And then there is theme. Theme, if you look at it very carefully, usually it's something, I like to say, if you look at the word theme, you have a T-H-E, the. And then if you look at the M-E, the rest of it, if theme had to have extra letters, it would be message. So theme is the author's message that they're trying to convey to their audience. Now, say, for example, if you want to talk about greed, which is sometimes a popular theme, or there could be love. So if you've experienced love in a positive way, you can communicate that through your characters and the dialogue that they are saying to each other. If you had a bad experience with love, then again, you can use the dialogue that the characters convey to each other about not liking love. And not all solutions or resolutions have to be a positive one. It could be a negative one. So think about that. Next, your character types. We have several kinds. We have a flat and round character. Flat one would be one that stays the same. It does not change. We would also consider that to be a static character, someone who doesn't change throughout the story. The round character and the dynamic character, those are the characters that actually change. From the beginning of the story, something happens to change their thought pattern or how they feel about something, and then they come to a resolution, which would be your lesson learned. Make sure characters are believable. If you don't have a believable character, you don't have a good story. So make sure your characters have human characteristics, such as personality traits. Are they kind? Are they mean? Are they a bully? Right? Keep that in mind. And then always, a good story leaves the audience wanting more. So in this case, I'll give you an example of A.K. Rowling. She developed a Harry Potter series. And that series, she left the audience wanting more. So don't think that you have to finish your book and not be able to have a series. You might have something, if you really love writing and you want to have a nice message to send to your audience, make it unique. Make it something that the audience is going to say, gosh, I wish the author had given me more. I want more. All right. I want to watch this video, give you a little bit of example of what makes a great story. Okay, so you can refer back to this YouTube and take another look at it. All right, again, we're going to start off with brainstorming. So how do we brainstorm? You need to use a graphic organizer. You have to think about your message. What was your lesson learned? What do you want to tell your audience? And then you have to plan out your different characters, your settings, your protagonists, your antagonists. Settings, is it going to be in a city? Is it going to be in a building such as school? Is it going to be home? Is it going to be out in the field? Think about the various different settings that you could place these characters in. Again, they're going to react in the setting and try to move their plot along with the conflict. Remember, you have to keep that conflict going. And then afterwards, you're going to decide which characters and settings are interested in, start eliminating everything that you don't need. You also have to think about the conflict, like I was saying, between the characters, the protagonists, the antagonists, right? Those two, if you're going to do a conflict, a compare and contrast. You also have to think about what is the plot of your story? What events will take place in order to get to the climax? Then, once you hit the climax, after the climax, how is that conflict going to be resolved? Here's another video. Okay, so again, brainstorming your characters, your setting, going back. This video is available to you to use. So now we're going to move on to the next stage, which is how to plan a story. When you plan a story, you have to use a story map. And there is 5 elements that you need to be aware of. The exposition, which is the beginning of the story. It includes your characters, setting, and your conflict. Again, remember, if there's no conflict, there's no story. Rising action. So what are the events leading up to the climax? That would be the middle part, the beginning, middle part section. So again, placing your characters in specific settings and the dialogue that's being exchanged between the two of them are going to lead up to the climax. The third one is climax. That's when there's a change in the story. It takes a turn. What happens? The fourth one is falling action. So what are the events leading into the end of the story? So after the climax has taken place, something has to change. So you're going to lead to the resolution. And that resolution is the lesson learned. So in this video, you're going to see the planning. Okay, so moving on to the next one, you do your character elements. The story elements that are also included are character, okay. So again, the understanding of your character, plot, setting, conflict, and then your resolution. All right, so moving on, how are you going to start developing your characters? Well, there could be any kind of character. They could be human, they could be an animal, they could be an object. And when you're describing those characters, make sure that you also include their physical appearance, such as maybe they might have brown eyes, dark hair, maybe a mustache, they're a man, background information. So give a little background information about your character, right? How old is your character? Where do they live? What school do they go to? Also, you might include the emotions of your character, such are they happy all the time? Are they sad? Are they gloomy? And also their attitude. Do they have like a no nonsense type of attitude where they can take charge of things? Or are they kind of a shy type of person? Again, the two types of characters are the static, which again does not change throughout the story, and then your dynamic character. That's the one who changes over the course of the story. Okay, so again, you can go back and take a look at this video when you go to play it on your own. The next one is setting, which is important, how to develop setting. So setting has two elements. It's the where, the location or the place that you're putting the characters in, and time, when, time. It could be in the past, the present, or the future. And these two elements influence the characters and the plot of a story. Okay. The next thing is how to develop your conflict. So conflict, remember, is the problem. That holds the story together from the very beginning to the end. And you introduce the conflict in the very beginning of the story, and that's to help with the plot. You want those characters, because remember, you're giving a message. You want your reader to learn something, a lesson learned. So you're going to introduce the problem or the conflict in the beginning, and then you're going to carry that problem throughout the entire storyline until you get to the resolution. Now, there are two types of character conflict. One is internal, which means that the character struggles within themselves. Maybe they have a problem. Maybe they're not good at football, or they're not very good at dancing, right? What are they going to do to overcome that problem? It also could be external, where the character is struggling with not only just the one person, but it could be of many persons or a group. So take that into consideration when you are thinking about developing your story. All right. I'm also including this other video that I'm not going to show, but again, it outlines a little bit more in detail conflict of each of the elements. If you're going to have, man versus man, man versus nature, this video you might want to take a look at. Moving along, all right, how to create conflict and resolve it. So before you even start to think about writing, think about a problem. Maybe you might have had some personal experience with a problem that you want to share with your audience. And what did you need to do to resolve it? So a few items. Think about the solution before you begin writing, so you have a plan. If there's a conflict between two characters, think about why you place them in a particular setting. Remember, setting is place and time. And the setting affects how characters act. Create a dialogue exchange between the characters that moves the plot along. Remember, there's going to be, if you're going to have two characters, there's going to be that flat or that static character who's not going to budge throughout the entire story. And then there's going to be that round or dynamic character that is going to change. So, what's the dialogue that you're going to give each of those characters to move your story along to come to your resolution? Okay, so with that particular YouTube video, what I wanted to do is make sure that your reader can identify the problem and the solution in your story. So it's very important, again, based on that conflict and solution writing task. All right, moving on to the next slide. And I ask you, so are you ready to become an author? I hope you are. And if you are, and if you want to take a little bit of a challenge, I have a challenge for you, which is if you logged on to that Google Classroom, it's going to be your turn. You're going to go log on to the Young Authors Google Classroom. You're going to look for the assignment that's entitled Wednesday, June 24th. So for practice, you will read a short story and complete a story map. You're going to read the common lit text carefully, and the story is strong for Tina. Not going to take you very long to read. It's a 4th grade text. Then after you complete the task, you're going to you're going to complete a story map under the assignment, and I gave you the link. Here's the story. Oops, it doesn't work. Well, when you go on, you'll click on the assignment, you'll see it. And then you're also going to see the story map that's underneath there. So the story map, after you complete it, upload it, because the next video that I make, we're going to go over that particular story before we get into the next stage. So again, I hope that you have a great time writing. If there's any questions or concerns, please go onto the Google Classroom under the assignments and let me know what your concerns are. There is a comment section underneath that you can Google any of your questions and concerns. I will be looking at that. So if you want to leave anything there for me, I will get back to you about your questions or concerns. But this was just an introduction to what the Young Authors Elective is about. And I hope that you are interested, because writing is absolutely wonderful. And if you have a message or something that you've personally experienced, share it with others, because you aren't the only one going through it. You might be able to help others as well through your writing. So again, good luck. Leave questions. Don't forget to log on to the Google Classroom, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.